So we are on Nun Amid Beis. And the Gemara just gave this little recap, just like we've been discussing now until now. That's what we were discussing when you came in, Rafal, that Reb Shimon holds that the din of a Bas Kayin getting Sreifa applies to both an Arusa and an Nesua, because he holds Sreifa is Chamura, and therefore it's an upgrade for an Arusa Bas Kayin to go from what she would normally get. If she wasn't a Bas Kayin, she'd get Skila. The Torah says she gets Sreifa, so she gets upgraded because she's a Bas Kayin. But the Chachamim say Skila is Chamura, so there's no reason to upgrade an Arusa Bas Yisrael to an Arusa Bas Kayin to give her a Sreifa instead of Skila, since Skila is more Chamur. And obviously a Bas Kayin is more Chamur than a Bas Yisrael. So therefore they hold the only upgrade is by the Nesua, that the Nesua goes from Chanek to Sreifa. So now the Gemara says, the time of Mai, about 10 lines up in the narrow lines, from the bottom of the narrow lines. The time of Mai. So what's the where does this come from? Where's Rosh Shimon? We just said sort of how.
Weren't we up to my Reb Shimon?
I don't know. Where's my?
Yeah.
It's fine.
My
where's
Reb
a little bit before that?
Is about halfway before the wide lines.
Oh wow, so far back. Okay.
Yeah. 5 lines before the wide lines.
5 lines before the white lines?
Yeah. My Reb
Shimon?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, so I went back a little extra. Yeah. My Reb Shimon. What's the sheet of Reb Shimon? Where does this sheet of Reb Shimon come from? Meaning that we just said how Reb Shimon works together. We said why, if you hold that Skila is more Chamor, then you say like the Rabbanan. If you hold Sreifa is more Chamor, then you say like Reb Shimon. But why did Reb Shimon say in the first place that Sreifa is more Chamor? The Tanya Reb Shimon Shnei Klos Nemru B'Bas Kayin. There were 2 clauses that was said by Bas Kayin. So the Gemara immediately interjects. B'Bas Kayin v'loy B'Bas Yisrael ema af B'Bas Kayin. So there are Shnei clauses that was said by both a Bas Yisrael and a Bas Kayin. Meaning, as Rashi explains, that there's one pasuk that says that a Bas Yisrael as well as a Bas Kayin. Before we get into the pasuk that the Torah says about a Bas Kayin getting Sreifa, the klal of it is that a Nesua gets Chanek and a Arusa gets Skila. And those klalos, when the Torah first said them, they applied to both. They applied to both a Bas Kayin and a Bas Yisrael, before the Torah then changed it by a Bas Kayin and added a separate thing. But there were 2 rules that applied to everyone. V'hoitzi akasav Nesua Michlal Nesua, V'arusa Michlal Asura. Arusa. And then the Torah said a Bas Kayin gets a different din, and it said, didn't differentiate between Nesua and an Arusa, according to Reb Shimon. It said both of them, that a Bas Kayin gets a new din. So the Gemara, Ma'akasha hoitzi akasav Nesua Michlal Nesua lahachmer, Avkasha hoitzi akasav Arusa Michlal Arusa lahachmer. Reb Shimon says, since the Torah had its rule for a Nesua and a Arusa Bas Yisrael, and then the Torah changed it, and it says it made a general statement to change both of those dinim for a Bas Kayin. It didn't differentiate between an Arusa and a Nesua when the Torah said a Bas Kayin is different. So Rav Shimon says it must be. Rav Shimon says it doesn't make sense. Why would it mean only be like the Chacham say? Why would it only be referring to a Nesua that she gets upgraded from Chanek to Sreifa, but it doesn't refer to the Arusa, since she already has a more Chamadik Eser? Rav Shimon says it doesn't make sense. The Torah B'Pashas was upgrading both of them. So B'Pashas said there has to be an upgrade from Skila, and therefore it must be that Sreifa is more Chama than Skila, because the Torah did not differentiate between an Arusa and a Nesua. It upgraded both. So it must be that Sreifa is more Chamor than Skila, and the Torah was upgrading an Arusa Bas Kayin from Skila to Sreifa, because Sreifa is more Chamor.
What did the Chacham say about that? I mean, that's a good.
They would say that no, the Torah was never intended to talk about. The Torah just said that a Bas Kohen gets upgraded to Sreifa, but it's only where it's an upgrade. They don't think it had, even though the Torah did not say specifically it's talking about only a Nesua, but we can understand that since it's not necessary by a Bas, by an Arusa, so we're not talking about that. We never intended that. Right? It was the way we looked at it till now was when the Torah said that a Bas Kohen gets Sreifa, we didn't know what it's referring to. The Chacham said it's referring to where it's necessary, where it's not necessary, it's not. So Zak to Gemara again. Okay, so Zak to Gemara, another din, and this will become clarified in the upcoming brisa. Zaymei Nesua Bas Kayin Bas Kayin. If Adam said that a woman who is married, who is a Bas Kayin who is married, and they say that she was Mizana, and then those Adam become Zaymim, B'chlal Zaymei Nesua Bas Yisrael. They're not going to get the treatment. A Zaymim, Eid Zaymim gets Kasha Zamam. But in this case, even though the person that they were testifying about was a Bas Kayin, they themselves are not going to get the Misa of a Bas Kayin. They're going to get the Misa of a Bas if they testified about a Bas Yisrael. Meaning, it's going to be, instead of being Sreifa, it's going to be Chenek. This is l'chayra only relevant to Reb Shimon, and as we're going to see later on, I think it's Rabbi Shmuel, that they say that there's an upgraded misa for a Bas Kayin Arusa. So we're saying on that, they're still going to get the treatment. I'm saying they're also going to only get the misa of a Bas Kayin. Now, according to the Rabbanan, this is irrelevant because they both get skila. But according to Reb Shimon, again, there'll be a limitation that although we normally say kasha zamam, in this case, we're going to learn from a pasuk that they only get the kasha zamam of a Bas Yisrael. Tan Rabbah. Now we have a long brisa that we're going to go through. The brisa is going to say go through the whole din of a naira hamirasa and a bas kayin. I'm sorry, not a bas kayin shazinsa, and then afterwards the Gemara is going to go through each statement of the brisa and understand what it was what was the havamina and what the brisa is telling. So the first one the brisa says Tan Rabbah Obasish kayin kiseichel. The Torah, when it says the din of a Bas Kayin, it says kiseichel, when she starts to be mechulu, when she starts to profane herself, to make herself not kaddish. Yachal afilu chullah es Shabbos. So maybe when the Torah says a Bas Kayin kiseichel, maybe that means just when she's mechal Shabbos, she's how do we, or she was over on some other isser of the Torah. How do we know it means that she was mizana? Tamalai liznais. The Torah says liznais. It's not just stam achilul when she profaned herself by being over an avera, but bedavka shebiznus. And the Gemara is going to ask, like, what was the havamina? Why would I think such a thing? It says right away liznus. So what was the havamina? Zaktam brisa yachal afilu pnuya. Kiseicha liznus. We're saying it's either a bas kayin that was ba on a when she was a russo or a pnuya, but she certainly was married. How do we know that's the case? Maybe if she's in a pnuya, which is not even chayiv karas. If a pnuya is born on a man, there's no chayiv. It's a lav, but it's not karas. Maybe she gets upgraded all the way from lav to getting misa of sreifa. So come on, nemer kanavia. It says over here legabi Bas Kayin, it says Avia. V'ne'emal halon, when it says V'choitzi esanal Pesach Beis Avia, Zaklua by a naira hameirasa, a general naira hameirasa, it says Avia. Malalon's nush, just like a naira hameirasa that we say she gets skila. It's talking about znus im zikas habal. It's talking about a woman who was married. So she was married, happens to be kedushin, but the point is that she already has matrimonial bonds. Afkan znus im zikas habal. So too over here, it's talking about znus together with zikas habal, and the Gemara is careful to say it this way because it's not clear yet whether the brisa, we're not clear yet. Is it going according to Rav Shimon? Is it going according to the Rabbanan? According to Rav Shimon, it doesn't mean specifically to Naira Meirasa, because the din of Sreifa over here doesn't just apply to Naira Meirasa, it also applies to Nesua. And according to everyone, actually, it goes, the Chamotzo goes from Chanek to Sreifa, and according to Rav Shimon, it goes to Chanek to Sreifa. So therefore, we have to say Zikas Habal, not that we're making a Hakish directly to Naira Meirasa, just like over there, over here it's talking Naira Meirasa, over there it's also talking about Naira Meirasa. Aimer Avia Elalahaitzi Es Kol Adam. Gemara. So now the Bryce asked, maybe when the Torah says Avia, that it says over here, maybe it's not to be Makashet to Naira Meirasa. Maybe when it says Avia, it's coming to tell you a different thing. It's coming to tell you this din of a Bas Kayin Kiseichel Liznais is talking only about a Bas Kayin who was born her father the Kayin. When it says he mechaleles, the lashon of esavia he mechaleles, it doesn't mean that she was bar on her father. That's a mashmayis of mechaleles, he mechaleles that includes everyone. But so the way Rashi explains what's the mashmois of himechalelas, because she is her father's a kayin, and now by her being mezana, she's somehow making a problem with the fact that he's a kayin. It's a busha to his kahuna that she's being bought. But if she's being mezana with her, if her father's being mezana with her, then it's not just that she is causes him to have this busha, but she herself becomes a chalal.
He himself.
No, she herself.
Meaning, I thought it's because he mechalel is meaning going on the person who's doing it. Now, if it's just her having a relationship with someone else, then she's the one who's mechalel the father. But if he's bar on his daughter, then he's the one who's also.
No, the other way around. If she's bar on someone else, it's not mechal the father. It's mechal the father in the sense that it's mechal him. He doesn't become a chalal or a chalal.
No, but if a certain thing he can't do,
it profanes him. But when she's bar on the father, it's not just her.
He
that's become a chol. I'm saying it's not just him that's becoming a chol. It's also her. Now she's becoming a chol.
I thought it's.
Let's see the Rashi.
Mashmehi mechalelas eisai v'lo v'loihu mechalalah.
V'loihu mechalalah. He's not being mechalal her
himself. I thought.
Let's see.
That make more sense. In other words, because
let's see the Rashi. Mashmehi mechalelas eisai. It's mashma that she is mechal him. V'loihu mechalalah. He's not being mechal her. Hariel kocham mishazinsu mishar kol adamam. Because if he would be born her, then he would make her into a halala, which is not the case if she's born a stamen adam menasha. This is a chiv karis. They cause that to be mechol. I think this would come down to the machlaikas. What I know it's not so simple about when you become a halala, but Rashi seems to understand that only when she's born her father, which is a chiv karis, does she become a halala, but not when she's stamba as a nesua to as an eshes. So when it says it means not the father, it means someone else. That she is causing the backlash to the father, but she herself remains unmachol. So the Gemara Hamani Mekayim Avia. What is she Mekayim? So what Avia never kan Avia, never Avia, Malan's Nusim Zika Sabal, Afghan's Nusim Zika Sabal. So therefore, this is all part of we had said maybe Zika is intended for this. The Gemara says no, we learned that from Him, and therefore the Avia is still available to tell us that it's not talking about a pnuya bala when she's bala as a pnuya, but rather it's talking about where there is a zikas habal where she's already married, either an asua or an arus. Imala halon naira, for some reason I'm just going to interject something totally unrelated. This Gemara reminds me of the sugya of the avodim. Avodim, when we learned avodim, was also a tremendous amount of psukim and twisting in and amongst itself about the dinim of. I didn't remember. Was that in Beckham? Is that in Baba Metzia? I think. I don't remember. It's strange how memory works. It's like Gemara. Imala alon naira viharusa. Afkan naira viharusa. I might say we're learning out from Avia, and we're saying which has a zika siva. Maybe since over there it's talking about an arusa, maybe also over here it's only talking about arusa. Nair v'hi nesua. Maybe how do we know that it comes to include also a nesua by geres v'hi arusa, or not a naira? Maybe it's talking about bedafka, a girl who's a naira. Naira is a girl between 12 and 12 and a half, and she's nesua. But how do we know a naira that's nesua? Or by geres v'hi arusa, someone who's not a naira merasa because she's a Baigeres, she's older than a naira merasa. Baigeres vihi nesua. And how do you know to include also a Baigeres that's nesua, which is even further away from a naira merasa? It's different in both factors. Both it's not a naira and it's not a narusa. Bafilu eskina. How do you know even a eskina, if she's much older, she's not a Baigeres, it's just when she turns 13. What if she's 50 and she's a nesua? This bas is mashma, a young girl. Maybe I would think it's limited to that. Minayin. How do we know that the pasuk avia that we just quoted is not just going for a naira merasa? So Tamalayma ubas kayin. It says ubas kayin. You say chalid's nice. It means ubas kayin under all circumstances. Mikol makom. So whether she's not just a naira merasa, the Torah expands it to include a nesua who's not a naira as well. Bas kayin. Zak the Gemara, Bas Kayin. The Torah says Bas Kayin, but maybe Bas Kayin is also limiting Eli Elish and Nisis LeKayin. Maybe that means only when she's married. This Bas Kayin who married a Kayin, Nisis LeLevi or Yisrael. How do we know if she did a kosher marriage, but she's not married to a Kayin? So she's no longer, as we're going to see in the Gemara later on, she no longer eats truma. Maybe she lost her status as a Bas Kayin. And how do we know? Even she's married to Ovid Kechab, L'chol Mamzel and Sin Minayin. How do you know if she married a guy or a Chalal, which makes her a Chalala and Aser forever to eat Truma, or the Mamzel and a Sin, which also makes her a Chalala? How do we know that even those, there's going to be an Isser that she's going to be treated as a Bas Kayin to get Sreifa? Now, the Achorim will ask, how does Ovid Kechavim sneak in there? Ovid Kechavim is not a marriage at all. She's born Ovid Kechavim. It's aser, but it's there's no nesu, and she doesn't become. Why would you think that has any effect? So,
well, even mamzer, wouldn't the kedushin not be chal, or kedushin is chal?
It is chal. The kedushin is chal. Those are all lavin. They're not chiyuve karas, and therefore on a sin and a mamzer or a chalal, the kedushin is chal, but she becomes a chalala. But the Ovid Kechavim, there's no kedushin chal, so why would I think that should affect anything? So yeah, we'll leave it. I think there are some Rishonim who have a different girsa in the Gemara. But in any case, so this is what the Gemara's question is. So we have two stages of the question. First of all, maybe I would think, since it says a Bas Kayin, maybe it's only if she married a Kayin, but maybe if she married a Yisrael or a Levi, which is totally mutter, it disqualifies her for the din of a Bas Kayin. And maybe even just if she's married to a Halal Mamzer Nesin, maybe that's more of a disqualification, because a Taka disqualifies her permanently from Truma. Maybe she shouldn't get the din of a Bas Kayin to get Sreifa when she's Mizana. Tamaloima Ubas Ish Kayin. It says Ubas Ish Kayin, that means Bedafka, That means that just because she's a Bas Kayin, it doesn't make a difference who she was married to when she was Mizan. Even though she even though she is married to someone who's not a Kayin, and therefore she herself is not a Kayin, or if she became a Halala, she's still going to be the person who, it depends on who her father was. The Gemara is going to ask, why would I think this should affect it? The Torah says Bas Kayin, so why would I think it makes a difference who she married? Then we continue. He Bas Kayin. The pasuk says Bas Kayin kiseicha liznes esavia he mechalala she. The Torah says the extra he. He b'sreifa, that means that only she gets sreifa. Ve'em bayala b'sreifa. Even though this iser bia they both participated in, right? He was born a Bas Kayin, but his einish does not change. He still gets the regular chenek for being born a Eshes Ish. He b'sreifa ve'in zaymemea b'sreifa. And now this is the explanation of what we saw from earlier in that little blurb right before we started this brayso. So when we had said that although the Zaymim had tried to give her, there was an Eid Zaymim who tried to give her Sreifa. If he becomes an Eid Zaymim, he's supposed to get Kasha Zamam. The Torah says we learn that only she gets Sreifa. It doesn't apply to the Eid Zaymim who try to get a Sefer. That Eid Zaymim is going to be treated as if he stam was trying to get someone, depending on whether, he will get whatever the Isser is, which is l'chayr chanek, trying to get her to get chanek, or if she was a bas an arusa, then the zaymim l'chayr would get skila. Eliezer Omer esavia b'sreifa v'eschameha b'skila. Her father with sreifa and her father-in-law b'skila. No way to understand this with Pashto Pshat, so we're going to wait till we get back in the Gemara's explanation of the Brisa to give a couple of explanations of what this means. We'll have to leave that totally unexplained. Amar ma. So now we're going to go back to the beginning of the Brisa and start working it through. Amar ma. Yachal afilu chil l'Shabbos. I would have thought the Torah says Kiseichel. Maybe it means if she's just Machal Shabbos. How do we know we're talking about being Mezana at all? So Machal Shabbos Baskili. Why would we say? Listen, certainly according to the Rabbanan that say Skila is Mochamer than Sreifa. Why would we say? How could we think that the pasuk is telling you that you go from Skila to Sreifa? Skila is Mochamer. Amarava Hamani Rav Shimon he. So this question seems to indicate we're talking about Rav Shimon. The Amasreifa Chamura. I might think so, and then we still need to understand why should it be that a Bas Kayin who's Machal Shabbos should get a different einish. So I might think since Kahanim have a chumrah, the Rabbi who mitzvahs yiseris, they have a lot of different mitzvahs. Tidam is shreifa because they're higher level kedusha. They should get shreifa. Kamash malan. Therefore, that's what we have to tell you that no, it doesn't apply to Shabbos or Stam Isurin. Any other Isur, it only applies to Znus. We're going to ask why would I have thought such a thing? That because Kehanim have mitzvahs yiseris, a Bas Kayin who's Machal Shabbos should get Sreifa, according to Rav Shimon, which is more than Skila. Why is she different than her father? We're just saying this about the Bas Kayin. What about all the men? They're the ones who actually have all the mitzvahs. They have most of the mitzvahs applied to the men, the extra mitzvahs. And we're not applying it to them. So what sense does it make? So Gemara, Ashtre Shabbos Legaba, I'm sorry, Sakdat Chamina, Iu de Ashtre Le Shabbos Legabi Avoida. Since Legabi the men, they're allowed to do the avodah on Shabbos, they have a special kula Legabi being Mechal Shabbos. So therefore, the extra isser of this. So I guess it's specifically for Shabbos. I've been saying that it goes on everything, but I guess Chilul, we said for some reason we would assume it means Chilul Shabbos. I guess the reason why. So maybe the father since he has a kula, even though he has mitzvahs yiseris, but he also has a kula gabi Shabbos that can be he can be mechal Shabbos when he's doing that avodah. He even though the asher Shabbos gava ein matidin b'sreifa, but a woman a bas kain who doesn't have that kula, maybe she would get streifa if she's mechal Shabbos because she has the higher level of being a kain. Kamash malan. That's why the pasuk says, ubas kain. I'm sorry. What was the pasuk? I forgot what the pasuk where we said. You see. So we learn that from Liznes, not like that. Kamashwan. So now we go on with the next piece of the brisa. So we took care of the Chilul Shabbos and Liznes. Yachal afilu pnuya. Maybe the Gemara then asked, the brisa then asked, maybe even if she's a pnuya, she should get a einish of sreifa. In fact, the Gemara Liznes ksiv. It says Liznes, and Liznes, to become a Zaina, normally there has to be a chiyav of znus, of not just a lav. In order a woman doesn't become a Zaina from being bar as a pnuya, it's only when she's over on a lav. The Gemara could do the Amar Pani Habal Pnuya Shaloi L'Shamishas Asa Zaina. There's a Takar Belazar Shita that even though it's only a lav, it's still she becomes a Zaina that she's also to the Kuna. Right? The difference of becoming a Zaina or not is a Zaina is also to the Kuna.
Is the over Belazar only by Kohanim that he says this?
No,
it's a general rule.
She gets a din she gets a Zaina. I mean, that's what it's negeya for. The din, the classification of Zaina. She gets into that classification of Zaina, but the nafkamina is that she's not allowed to marry to Kayin.
But it's not kilo.
Isha's what?
She doesn't become a chola.
Right. So that's what we're saying, that the question of the Gemara was, why does the Brisa have to even tell me that? Why would I think that a pnuya is also, she doesn't get the din of a Zaina? So Mehechatesis, her says Liznes, why would I think she becomes also in the first place, that she should get Sreifa? She didn't all of a sudden we're upgrading this girl who doesn't even have the din of a Zaina. She was just over on a lav and she's getting Sreifa, a Misa Chamura. Why would that happen? So saying, according to Rabbi it makes some sense, because according to him, she is called a Zaina. So the Torah said that this Zaina gets the din of Sreifa. But if she doesn't get the din of Zaina, she's not even what's described in the pasuk. It says Kiseicha Liznes. She's not a Zaina. According to Rabbi it makes sense. Then the Brisa continued. The pasuk says, so what do I have to say? Avia, maybe it's coming to tell you as kol adam, meaning that it's only if she's ba on her father. Elamai niu shezinsa me'avia. So now the Gemara asks, so what are you suggesting? You're saying maybe the Brisa asks, maybe it only refers to an isha that's ba on avia. When it says avia, that means that she was ba on avia. My ira bas kayin, afilu bas shal nami. If that was the case, we're talking about a isha that was born her father. It doesn't have anything to do with saying that she gets sreifa, but every isha that's born her father gets sreifa. The Amar Rava, Amali Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Asya Heina Heina, Asya Zima Zima. He learns a sequence of Bryce of Zeir Shabbos to tell you that a naira or a woman who's born her father is the einish is Sreifa. So Gemara, so what do I need? What do I need the pasuk to tell me? We're saying, what do I need a pasuk to tell me? It's not just talking about someone who's born a father. We already have a pasuk saying that Ishu's born a father gets Sreifa. It's I would have thought that maybe from the fact that the pasuk is coming to tell you, the pasuk here is telling you that a bas kayin gets Sreifa, that clearly means that Rava's limud is incorrect, because it couldn't be that the Torah is telling you the same thing on just a bas kayin if it's true on every isha that's ba on her father. So Midigali Rachmana Bas Chayin v'Loi Bas Yisrael. From the fact that Torah said it specifically applies to a Bas Chayin, not Bas Yisrael. Kamash Malon. That's why we needed the pasuk. So that's why I would have thought. That's why we need a pasuk to tell you it's not just talking about a Bas Chayin who's mezana with her father. Bas Chayin ainly elishanisis lekayin. Now we'll continue on to the next part of the brisa. Maybe it's only a Bas Chayin that's married to a Chayin. This is Levi Yisrael Levi Kechavim L'Chalul L'Sinu Mamze Minayin. Tamalem Bas Ish Chayin. Avopi She'anikenis. Now the Gemara asks, Mishum the Insavu Hu Lahani Lav Bas Chayini. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? The Torah said that a Bas Chayin, when she Kisecha Liznes, somehow how are you twisting that to refer to that being a Bas Kain has nothing to do with who she marries. She's still a Bas Kain regardless of who she marries. This is almost like a restatement of the first question. It said a Bas Kain, and that's what it's referring to. And there's no reference to that she had to be married to a Kain. So the Gemara the Torah says Kiseicha Liznes, Hanimile Heichadika Mischala Hashta. It's only when she now is becoming Mechula. She's going down from her pedestal of being a full-fledged Bas Kayin. Avol ha kivin to come miskal of a kaim meikara. But a woman who is married to any one of these things, either to a Yisrael and a Levi, which the Gemara is going to address separately the din of a Yisrael and a Levi, or someone who was married to someone that's Aser, who makes her a halal. The Amar Bas Kayin kisiya leishzar. Since she was married to someone who's puzzle to her, she becomes puzzle. So that makes her obviously, to a very large extent, excluded from being a Bas Kain. She's she's already largely mechol.
Even if she marries a Levi or Israel?
No. This part, Kisi Lezar, really refers to where she marries an Asin or a Mamza, someone that she's not allowed to marry. Where the Kedushin is Chal, she becomes she's born such a person, she becomes puzzle as a Chalal.
So she can never marry a Kohen.
I'm sorry?
Meaning she can never marry a Kohen.
Right. So she's very far from being like a regular Kohen, a pure Kohen. And Levi Yisrael Nami, V'shaval Beisavi, Amin Kenura. That we say that when the marriage is over with the Levi Yisrael, then she returns to her father's house. That teaches us that as long as she's married to that person, she is not able to eat truma like she could when she was a Bas Kain. So in that sense, she is already down from her pedestal of kahuna.
Meaning if she was married to a Kachovim, a Mabza, or a Nasim, and she gets divorced or widowed, she will not be able to go back in the Tiyuma.
Right. I mean, you see, I think you're pointing out a good point that l'chayra the din of a mamzer and a sin would be different. At least the havamina is that it would be different than Yisrael and Levi. Yisrael and Levi is only while they're married that we would have had a havamina that she should no longer be treated as a bas kayin. But the dinim of the married to Nesinu Mamzer, what we're really talking about is she's married to Nesinu Mamzer and someone's born her during that time. That's Bepashtas what we're talking about. Right? Because we're talking about a woman who's married, either she's a Rusa or Nesua, depending on the Shita. But we're saying in those cases when she's when she's married to someone who takes her out of the kuna, and this marriage takes her out even more, because she can no longer ever marry a Kayin, and she can no longer ever eat Truma, which is more what we're talking about. She's permanently barred from Truma. Maybe that's not considered a Bas Kayin that gets Shreifa. And then the Gemara continues and says, not only that, even if she's just married to Yisrael or Levi, that right now she can't eat Truma. Maybe that's excluded from the din of Shreifa as a Bas Kayin. Kamash Malan. So that's what the Brisa tells you. No, that it's not referring it's referring to a Bas Kayin, whoever she married. Tamalaimu Bas Ish Kayin, from the word Ish Kayin. Udaloy Rameya. This is not like Rameya. The conclusion of this Bryce is not like Rameya. The Tanya. Bas Kayin Shenisis Yisrael. a bas kain who was married to Yisrael, va'achla truma, and she married truma, so she's not allowed to eat truma while she's married to Yisrael. Mishalemes is a keren. She pays the keren. Ve'ena mishalemes is a chaimish. In some sense, she still retains her din of a bas kain. She's not like a Yisrael who eats truma that has to pay the keren v'chaimish. Since this bas kain who's married to Yisrael, someday if her husband should leave her, or if he dies or divorces her, she will return to her father's house as long as she doesn't have children and start eating truma again. She doesn't have the din of chaimish because she retains a bit of kahuna. Umisasa b'sreifa, but her din, her misa, will be b'sreifa, like we just said. It doesn't make a difference who she was married to. She still is a bit of a kain. She still is a bas kain. Nisis la'echad min ha'psulin, but this is where a mayor diverges. If she's married to one of the psulin, which makes her into halala, which means she can never eat truma, Mishalem is karen v'chaimish, then she's entirely out of the parsha of being a bas kain. She's managed to get herself totally sullied that she can no longer be treated as a bas kain. So she's going to be like any Yisrael that she's going to pay the karen and the chaimish. And she's not going to get the streif of a bas kain. So Remeir is chaylik on this brisa, and he says that Eina Chanami, there are some types of chilulim which will take her out of being a bas kain. Doesn't make a difference how she passes herself. She pays karen and chaimish. And even if she's married to a psul, like we said in the brisa, she gets streif. Okay, what time is it? 8:30. Okay, you guys gave me 40 minutes of hard going. I'm not gonna. This next piece is complicated. This is the hard part.
What's the pasuk, by the way, that we know that an arusa gets more chamer than an asua by a bas kain?
An arusa gets.
How do we know that? We keep on saying that an arusa is different than an asua, right?
Well, it depends. It's according to Reb Shimon, they both get.
No, but I'm saying, how do we know that there's a different misa? Or that something is the rule is different with them. Like let's say according to
what you're asking, what was the svara of Rav Shimon to begin with?
Not Rav Shimon. I'm just saying, as we've taken as a granted, right?
Yeah. That an arusa is because there's the whole din of naira merasa. Naira merasa gets skila. Unlike every isha whose mizana gets chenek, there's a special din of a naira merasa.
All right.
Yeah.
So according to Rav Shimon by Bas Kain, it's all about. All right, got it. All right.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you so much.
Shkayach, thank you. I appreciate your patience. I know this is
No, it's been interesting.
Yeah,
it is interesting. Yeah,
I like it. I like it, but it's hard to.
Oh yeah.
It takes focus.
You have a great.
Tomorrow's in shul.
Yeah, that's Shem. Yeah.
Okay. Shkoyach.
Unless something changes. Take care.
Have a good day.